Hi GV8, Mr. Ruley here with today's edition of Storytime. Today we are continuing with Book 14 of Dragon Master's Land of the Spring Dragon, picking up with chapters 9 and 10 today. Let me go ahead and check my notes here. All right, so in chapter 8, in the last chapter, they escaped trickery from a shapeshifter. Remember, that was somebody who could change their form and tried to trick Drake, but he figured it out, that clever boy. Now, Drake continues to have to make his own choices. Breen can't guide him. So what happens to Breen in this chapter? I want you to kind of think about that after you see what happens to her here. So, picking up with chapter 9, book 14, Land of the Spring Dragon, The Spooky Forest. Congratulations, Breen said, helping Drake to his feet. You tricked the puka. What's a puka? Drake asked. A puka is a fairy creature that can take any shape. A shapeshifter in the science fiction world. Breen replied, it usually takes on animal forms, like that of a horse. Makes sense. Drake sighed. I wish you were allowed to help me find Fallon. I guess you can't tell me if we're getting close? Breen shook her head. I don't think so, he said. I just hope we find her soon. I didn't think so. Drake marched along the path to the edge of a second forest. The needles on the tall pine trees were so dark that they looked black. The trees had black trunks. Kind of spooky. Drake gulped. This forest looks pretty scary, he said. Is it safe to go in there? Well, you have to decide for yourself, Drake, Breen said. Drake nodded. He looked up at the tall trees and took a deep breath. Okay, let's go. As soon as he set foot in the dark forest, Drake felt a chill. He shivered. An eerie hush fell over them as they made their way through the trees. The earth felt soft and squishy beneath Drake's feet. Behind him, Breen began to sing in a sweet voice. The blackbird was a fine-looking fellow. His feathers were black and his bill was yellow. He flew over the field and over the trees. He soared and he swooped on the soft spring breeze. The song made Drake feel a little bit less scared. That's a nice song, Breen. Where did you... He turned back. He looked back, but Breen was gone. Breen? Drake asked. He turned in a circle looking for her. His voice got louder. Breen? Breen? His voice echoed against the trees. Uh-oh, what do you think happened to Breen? Where'd she go? He was all alone. I really like it when authors will do this from time to time. So we have this big, long paragraph just before, and then all of a sudden, to kind of set the mood, just a short sentence here. He was all alone. I don't know. I think the contrast of like having all that text and then all of a sudden everything just stopped. It captures that idea of like how still everything is. And of course, when things are really still and quiet and dark, sometimes it's a little creepy. So it adds to the mood or the feel of the book. All right. Moving on. He was all alone. Drake had never been alone on a mission before. Other dragon masters had always gone with him. So had Worm. He thought of Worm waiting for him by the fairy mound outside the fairy world. I wish Worm were by my side right now, he thought. Drake gazed at the dark woods all around him. Is Breen playing a trick on me? He wondered. Or is she in trouble? I should try to contact Worm. But before he could, small fairies floated out of the trees toward him. Their clothes were the color of tree bark. Their hair looked like moss, and their wings were tree leaves. They quickly surrounded him. Look at those fairies surrounding Drake. All right, that's chapter 9. Let's get into chapter 10. My notes here say, so Drake has another test in the fairy world. Now, what do you think will happen to Drake after the end of this chapter? So let's look and see what kind of test Drake has, and then we'll see something surprising that happens at the end of the chapter here. Be looking for that. All right, chapter 10, The Riddle. The tiny fairies closed in around Drake. Who has entered our forest? One of the creatures asked. Well, my name is Drake, Drake replied. My name is Kiora, and we are the wood sprites, the fairy said. What are you doing here? I'm on my way to see the spring dragon, Drake explained. I need her help. Her dragon master, Breen, brought me here, but Breen just disappeared. Can you help me find her? The wood sprites grouped together and talked in low voices. Then Kiora flew in front of Drake's face. We can help you, she said, but first, you must pass a test. There sure are a lot of tests in the fairy world, Drake mumbled. Kiora put her hands on her hips. Well, we can go away, you know. Do you want to find the Dragon Master or not? Well, yes, I do, Drake said quickly. What is the test? You must find a flower in the forest and bring it to us, Kiora answered. Any flower? He asked. Kiora shook her head. No, one special flower. Listen. The wood sprites began to chant at once. Find a flower the color of the sky, with a cherry for an eye. It has more petals than the legs of a horse, but fewer than a spider's legs, of course. Well, how many legs does a spider have? Let me read that one more time. Find a flower the color of the sky. What color would that be? With a cherry for an eye. What do you think that means? Cherry for an eye. It has more petals than the legs of a horse. All right, how many legs does a horse have? But fewer than a spider's legs, of course. All right, how many legs does a spider have? Okay, well, let's think about that. See if Drake can figure this out. Drake tried to remember all the clues. Color of the sky, cherry for an eye, more than 4 petals, fewer than 8 petals. I'll find it, Drake promised. Drake jogged through the forest, followed by Kiora. He looked around for flowers, but he couldn't imagine finding any in this dark, spooky place. Flowers need sunlight to grow, Drake thought. I need to find a brighter area in this forest. Soon he came to a clearing in the woods where colorful flowers bloomed. Drake ran to a patch of blue flowers and knelt down. Color of the sky, he said. And look, they have bright red centers, just like cherries. These must be the flowers in the riddle. Now I just have to count the petals. So more than how many? And fewer than how many? Let's see, let's count these here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 petals. Is that more than 4 and less than 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he counted to himself. This is it. 6 is more than 4 and less than 8. That was easy. But that is not the right flower, Kiora said. Drake frowned, but it has a red center like a cherry, 6 petals, and it's blue, the color of the sky. Is it? Kiora asked. Well, of course the sky is, Drake started to say, but then he looked up to see the pink sky overhead. You ever seen a sunset with some of those beautiful colors? Maybe that's what's going on. Oh, I forgot, Drake said. The sky in the fairy world is pink, not blue. Oh, okay, so that's just the norm out there. Kiora giggled. Very good. Keep looking. Drake searched and searched until he found some pink flowers. They had red centers. He counted the petals. 4 petals. That's not enough, he said, frowning. He counted the petals on another pink flower. 9 petals. Too many. He counted the petals on flower after flower, and finally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he called out. He plucked the flower from the ground and held it up to Kiora. Is this it? It is, the fairy replied. And now we will help you find the Dragon Master. Kiora sprinkled glittery dust on the flower. It flew out of Drake's hand and planted itself back in the ground. Then it began to grow and grow and grow. The flower grew bigger than Drake. Whoa, Drake exclaimed. Then the flower stem bent toward Drake. The petals surrounded him, and the flower swallowed him up. Good luck finding your friend, Kiora called out. Uh-oh. What do you think is going to happen to Drake? Was this a trick? Well, we'll find out next week when we pick up with Chapter 11. Thanks so much for joining me today, everybody. You take good care.